Hi, this is Matt with State of Flux here with another 52-week movie challenge. Everyone's a critic. We are on week 24, a new release film. And because it's a new release film, I'm going to sort of switch up the format of how I do this a little bit. I am going to answer all the questions as it is in here, but at the end I will talk a little more specifically about my thoughts on the movie. And this will be a non-spoiler review until it is a spoiler review, and that will come at the very, very end. And I will give a very clear spot where it'll become spoiler territory. So you have that. But feel free to watch this review up until I'm like, spoilers, yo. Alright. The new release movie I chose was Lightyear, year released 2022, aspect ratio 1:43:1, runtime 1 hour and 45 minutes. This is an adventure, sci-fi, sort of family film, rated PG, starring Chris Evans, Keke Palmer, Taika Waititi, Peter Sohn, and Uzo Aduba. Directed by Angus MacLane, produced by Pixar, by way of Disney. Written by Angus MacLane, Matthew Aldrich, and Jason Headley, with music by Michael Giacchino. Awards received, as of now, none. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Giacchino's score maybe gets recognized at the end of the year, or possibly the film for Best Animated Feature. Why did I choose this particular film? It's Father's Day weekend, and I decided to celebrate early by taking my daughter to see Lightyear. I'm a big Toy Story fan, and wanted to share that experience with her. That's why I'm sporting the early Father's Day shirt, and these are some cards that she made me, as well as drawing the picture for my poster. She drew Buzz Lightyear, Socks the cat, as well as the spaceship that looks like a root vegetable. I wrote the media cannibalism thing. Have I seen this film before? No. And would I recommend this film? Why or why not? Yeah, it's a soft recommendation, but I think yes, I would recommend it. I'm sort of iffy on it. It's easily the lowest of low-tier Pixar. Think Cars when you're going to see it, or maybe A Good Dinosaur. But it's not even as good as like the middle ground movies like your Luca's or Finding Dory or Monster University. This is definitely like on Cars level, so set your expectations to not stun. What's this film about? So the movie starts with an opening scroll thing. That says, in 1995, a boy named Andy received a Buzz Lightyear toy for his birthday based on his favorite movie. This is that movie. And then you watch the movie that Andy presumably would have watched and fell in love with. And I sat through the movie thinking, like, would 10-year-old me have been in love with this movie so much so that I changed my entire identity to resemble this character? And the answer is probably not. I think it would have worked better if they'd done a more Star Trek angle, where you had Buzz Lightyear be more like a space cowboy, because Andy was so obsessed with like the cowboy nature of Woody that seeing a space cowboy, whoa! And this really isn't that. In fact, if this movie is anything, it's space Interstellar. The plot of this film is very similar to Interstellar at times, except it's, I don't even want to say dumbed down, because it's written as intelligently as Interstellar is. They just make it easily consumable and digestible, so much so that a child can understand it and not the monotony that was Interstellar. I'm not a fan of Interstellar. But this is Interstellar for kids, i.e. it's about Buzz who, early on in the film, crashes their spaceship and is trying to find a way to fix the ship and get them out of there. But every time he tries to do a space run, he advances a little bit into the future. And so he doesn't age, but everybody around him does. But he's dedicated to completing his mission. And so you follow the film. Will he be able to complete his mission, or will the evil Zurg take him down? And that's sort of where I would get. I don't want to talk much more about the Zurg of it all until the climax, but the film works enough. I just couldn't help but sit there, even from that opening, like little title card thing, and think, has this the point we've gotten to in our society, where we're no longer deconstructing our characters, we are cannibalizing our intellectual property to the point where we're watching movies that take place within movies. Like, what's next? Are we going to do Face Punch, the famous movie talked about in the Twilight movies? I mean, hell, I'd watch that because that movie sounds insane. But think of it this way. Like, are we going to get an Angels with Filthy Souls movie so that we can more immerse ourselves into the world of Home Alone? Is that the level of our society has come to? And what other ones? Drop some in the comments down below. What other movies or books based on products? And this is not the first one to do this. You also have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which was a textbook written into like one of Harry Potter's journeys. I think it's the second book. Maybe even it was the first book. That's like a textbook he has to read. And so we watched the cinematic movie about how that book was written. So what other famous movies within movies are we going to get now that Lightyear set the tone and presumably will make enough money to see this as something viable within our world? Are we going to get an Itchy and Scratchy movie? Is that the next thing? An actual Itchy and Scratchy movie? Heavens. So which character were you most able to identify with or connect with, and in what way? I don't know about identify with, but the one that I enjoyed the most was Socks the cat. He is fantastic. He's an emotional support cat, but he's also a cyborg. Right, he's not a cyborg. He's a robot. He has no like living components. So he's like this cute droid cat that's really fun throughout the thing, and he's probably the most well-developed like newcomer in that he has just as much character development as Buzz throughout the film, whereas the other characters are definitely supporting characters that don't really have much in the way of like character development, but they're there to support your main character. This dude gets the most laughs. He's really cute, really fun, really funny, but I also really like the direction they went with Buzz Lightyear. They updated him to more modern sensibilities, and that kind of worked for me. I also really like the voice work that Chris Evans did, and I like in the first 5 or 10 minutes I was sitting there thinking, would Tim Allen have worked better in this? Like, did we need to switch it up? And I think the reason for that is very specific, and I'll get into why they don't have Tim Allen in this movie later, at least why I think it is. But that'll come at the end of the video with the spoiler territory. So, best line or most memorable quote, it would have to be To Infinity and Beyond. The repeated motif of To Infinity and Beyond and what that means between Buzz and his best friend, who he watches as she ages, is really quite beautiful. And that's the most Pixar-y stuff. There are moments in this film that are really quite elevated and really quite work and are the very Pixar standard. But everything else just seems so, I don't want to say hollow, because it's not hollow, it's just uninspired. But I will say that the utilization of To Infinity and Beyond really moved me, and it got me tearing up at a certain point in the film. And it goes beyond that too. There's a lot of quotes that Buzz says in that first Toy Story movie that get sprinkled about in this film, and every single time they're used really, really well. And I thought that helped sell the movie really well as well. Were you surprised by the ending, and what would you do differently? No, you can see the ending coming a million miles away, and it's the right ending that the movie needs. So based on the pre-release marketing and word of mouth, what expectations did you have of this movie? I thought the trailers looked relatively bland. I was trying to figure out why we were getting this movie, and as okay of a movie as it is, I don't know if it necessarily ever really adjusts or excuses itself as to why it exists, but there could have been a good explanation. And I'll get to that in the spoilers. So, did this film meet my expectations? I mean, yeah, it met them in the sense that I didn't think it looked all that good, but I assumed Pixar being behind it, it was going to engage me in some way, and it did. Yet I was trying to find a reason for it to justify its existence, and it didn't, which is what I kind of expected. So it met all of my expectations of perplexion. Okay. So I'm just going to do a tease for what next week's video is, and then I'm going to get into my final thoughts, which are all spoiler related. Alright, so next week's challenge, week 25, a film celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. 25 years ago, 1997? A 1997 movie, okay. I will research and try to come up with a baller film from 1997, y'all. If you're not gonna stick around for spoilers, this is the time to hop off. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. And spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Hi, you've reached the spoiler section of the show, where we're going to talk about Lightyear spoilers, which basically the only thing I'm interested in talking about is Zurg. Zurg being the villain from the Buzz Lightyear universe as introduced to us in the Toy Story films, particularly Toy Story 2, and the film does a retcon with the character of Zurg. In Toy Story 2 you have the realization that Zurg is Buzz's father, which also why I'm wearing this shirt. And they retconned that for this film. And that's not something that necessarily bothers me. It makes that one moment in Toy Story 2 kind of like a head scratcher, but I don't really care that much about it at the end of the day, because this is a separate entity from that. They try to buy it in there with a line where when Zurg reveals who he is and the guy steps out and Buzz is just like, "Dad?" So they try to like tie that in there, but the ultimate reveal of Zurg is that it is Buzz himself 70 years from the future. And I was trying to understand why they had Buzz be both the main character and the main villain of the film, and I thought that it works on a screenplay level. And it doesn't work because they didn't voice cast it correctly. The political natures set up within that story, like the reading of the film is you have old Buzz, aged Buzz, who is trying desperately to preserve and hold on to what was, to conserve a world that he sees slipping away from him, and that all this progress that has been made is unnecessary because it's not the world he's from. And then you have the Buzz that is your main character throughout the film, who starts off the movie thinking the same, but after full immersion in the world of this sort of multicultural landscape, everybody around him is either a minority or a convict, and he starts to see them less as rookies or people below him, but as real people and his friends and family. And you have his best friend who he starts bumming around with the granddaughter because she's no longer able to be in his life. You have this person, this Buzz, who's seen the world progress, and the reading there is that it's conservatism versus the progressive nature of politics, and that reading is there. It's still there in the movie. It doesn't work because they voice it incorrectly. I think Chris Evans voicing this modern progressive Buzz is a good choice. And I think they needed to get Tim Allen to voice old Buzz. And I can see why. My guess is that Tim Allen didn't want to do that. Probably because they made old Buzz a little too much of a villain. But there's a way that you could have written this where you have both Buzzes who are trying to do what they think is right, holding on to their mission, and make it a little more balanced, and that would have made the film, I think, elevated to the Pixar standard at that point. As it is, it falls a little flat. But I think if you'd gotten Tim Allen to voice old Buzz, and you could get this ideological transfer of this was the Buzz from before, and this is the Buzz now. He's desperately trying to hold on to what was. And it works politically too, because you have on the spectrum there, you have Tim Allen, who is very hyper-conservative, and you also have Chris Evans, who's very hyper-not. And you could have made that dichotomy something interesting, and also you could make each other see each other's perspective because they're the same character. They're two sides of the same coin. And I think that would have made a very smart, interesting, and dramatic film. But because you have, I think it was Bronson, I can't remember who voiced old Buzz. Bear with me. He deserves a shout out because he did fine work for the film. But let's see, James Brolin. Sorry, James Brolin does old Buzz. He does serviceable work, but I think this really needed to be Tim Allen. I will also say that I have seen a lot of pushback that because Chris Evans is not involved with this film, that Tim Allen got fired, and that could not be further from the case. Disney's still on very good terms with Mr. Allen. He's doing another Santa Claus movie or TV show or something, I believe later this year, if not next holiday season. So you'll see more of Tim Allen in the Disney Playhouse. This just wasn't necessarily right for him. I would not be surprised if we find out 5 years from now that they offered him the part of old Buzz and he was like, all or nothing. That's my character kind of thing. Or maybe they just were like, let's move away from that. Because they could sense that the politics of the film might have rubbed him the wrong way. And they wanted to be maybe kind and part ways without much of a fiasco. Instead, they created a fiasco online because people are like, they fired him, and that's not necessarily the case. That said, I think what could have been versus what is kind of the thing that holds the film back. That and the film has an excessively long runtime at 1 hour and 45 minutes, which doesn't sound like an hour too long, but sure as hell feels like it. Being that you can kind of sense every direction the film is going, feels so long. But his friends, the sidekicks, they help alleviate that. Taika Waititi does a lot of really great voice work, and his character is quite fun and funny, and I also like the convict woman. She was great. But they're just like caricatures. They're not fully developed characters. Anyway, I'm rambling. What did you think of Lightyear? Drop that down in the comments below. And do you agree with me? Do you think that Chris Evans and Tim Allen both should have been the two Buzzes in this film? Do you want to go all Allen or all Evans? I don't know why they had Brolin do anything. They should have had Evans just voice old Buzz. Honestly, he did a good job as old Cap. So, I don't know, whatever. But let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching. And next week, we are going to do a movie from 1997, apparently. Again, thanks for watching. Peace.